It looked like the perfect marriage, until the night it all fell apart. A missing wife, a ransacked home, and a husband who cried on camera so convincingly he fooled neighbors, detectives, even the FBI. But behind the tears was a plan so calculated it almost worked. This is the story of how a charming husband staged a crime scene, manipulated an entire community, and nearly got away with murder, until one overlooked detail exposed everything. She was a woman in her early 30s, described by friends as generous, full of life, and the kind of person whose laughter filled a room. She had worked hard to build her career and was deeply connected to her family. To everyone who knew her, she represented stability, kindness, and trust. And trust was exactly what she gave her husband. The man she fell for seemed like the perfect partner. He was charismatic, a confident pilot with an easy smile. Friends said he had the kind of charm that could win over an entire room. He told stories of adventure, success, and stability. And within months of meeting, he and his new love were inseparable. They married, bought a home, and projected the image of a power couple. Photos showed them traveling, celebrating anniversaries, and smiling for family portraits. But what looked perfect from the outside was already crumbling from within. Debt began piling up. Rumors of affairs surfaced. And behind the charming smile was a man spinning lies to everyone, including the woman who trusted him the most. Then came the night that changed everything. On a quiet evening, the husband dialed 911, his voice frantic, his words tumbling out in desperation. "My wife is missing. The house, it's been broken into. There's blood here, please. Send someone fast." Police arrived quickly. Inside the home, chaos. A shattered window, drawers yanked open, furniture overturned, and near the hallway, a small pool of blood. The husband appeared devastated. He wept openly, hugging neighbors, pleading with officers, asking for help. On local news, he begged the community for information. To most, he looked like a broken man, someone desperate to find his missing wife. The FBI even stepped in, treating the case as a possible abduction. And for days, the husband played his role with perfection. But crime scenes don't lie. Detectives began noticing details that didn't add up. The broken window, the glass was scattered outside the house, not inside, as if it had been broken from within. The so-called burglary, expensive electronics, jewelry, even cash sat untouched. Why would thieves break in, ignore valuables, and vanish without taking anything? And the blood pool on the floor, strangely small, inconsistent with a violent struggle. To investigators, it looked almost staged. Slowly, the illusion of a break-in began to unravel. As suspicion grew, the FBI dug into the husband's background. What they uncovered painted a chilling picture. He was drowning in debt. He was involved in multiple affairs. And just months earlier, he had quietly taken out a large life insurance policy on his wife. Even more telling were his digital footprints. Investigators discovered searches on his computer about staging crime scenes, faking alibis, and even FBI interrogation tactics. Neighbors had more to add. One handed over security camera footage that caught his car circling the neighborhood on the very night he claimed to be elsewhere. Piece by piece, the perfect facade collapsed. The husband was brought in for questioning. Sitting across from seasoned FBI agents, he continued his performance. Tears, shaking hands, long pauses of grief. But trained investigators noticed something chilling. Through hours of questioning, he never once asked if his wife might still be alive. Then came the breakthrough. One of his mistresses stepped forward, admitting he had talked about wanting a fresh start. In other words, a life without his wife. Presented with the evidence, the staged break-in, the untouched valuables, the surveillance footage, the insurance policy, and the mistress's testimony, his performance finally fell apart. In court, prosecutors built a devastating timeline. They described a man who presented himself as a doting husband, but who in reality saw his wife as an obstacle. They argued that he staged the break-in to appear as a victim, hoping sympathy would shield him from suspicion long enough to cash in on her death. Jurors listened to his crocodile tears, watched footage of him begging for help on television, and compared it to the cold, calculated evidence. The verdict was swift: guilty of first-degree murder. The sentence: life in prison without parole. For the community, the betrayal cut deep. Neighbors, who once embraced him during those desperate days of searching, now felt deceived. One recalled, "I hugged him when I thought he was grieving. I didn't know I was hugging a murderer." Her family, seated in the courtroom, endured every detail of the trial. They had lost a daughter, a sister, a friend. But they gained one small measure of peace. The truth was finally revealed. Today, the husband sits behind bars, and while justice was served, the case leaves behind a haunting reminder. Sometimes the most convincing mask of grief can hide the darkest intent. He fooled detectives, he fooled neighbors, he even fooled the FBI, at least for a while. But in the end, the truth always awakens. Was justice truly served in this case, or could more have been done to protect her? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Awaken True Crime for new cases every day, because the truth never sleeps.